I want to thank my family and my colleagues, and especially so many of my authors for being here tonight, some from great distance and some driving at breakneck speed, as Masha did down from Amherst, where she finished teaching at 3:20 this afternoon. And thanks, of course, to poets and writers for this incredible honor. Though I have to say, you must not know many editors if your idea of showing us a good time is making us stand and deliver before our most hyper-eloquent writers and daunting peers. My boss, Jeff Klosky, did not help matters when he emailed me recently. About your upcoming speech, you are forbidden to begin with, "We are living in dark, dangerous, uncertain times." As usual, damn it, he was right. Such an opening is in danger of becoming Our Times, It Was a Dark and Stormy Night, and in any case, going last, I'd risk having a previous speaker step on my lines. But I realized that that was not the foot I actually wanted to start on anyway. In my senior year of college, having discovered that I generally liked working on other people's prose a great deal more than on my own, I confided to a professor that I was thinking of trying to become an editor. "Pretty thankless job," she said. But the truth is that despite its moments of frustration and overwhelm and failure, I have never found the job thankless. More than anything, there is this, the sublime moment, and it never stops being sublime, when you get to attend as beautiful, meaningful, and original work emerges in the world. When I gave birth to my daughters, one of my sisters-in-law said, "It is one of the rare experiences for which miracle is not an overstatement." It is not an overstatement for the birth of art either. What's most miraculous is the let there be of it, the way a new and unique something yet again emerges from the wordless deep. The sense is that the work is primarily trying to communicate what it wants to become, how it wants to incarnate itself. Masha recently spoke of this process in an interview. "I know what my objectives are, and I know what the topic is, and then I'm just reporting. I walk around for a bit, literally bike and walk, and then suddenly I get an idea for what it should be, what the structure is. I can't tell you how I came up with this." Peter Matheson thanked John Irving for his comments on the sprawling early draft of what would become his monumental Shadow Country back in the book's Cretaceous days, when the whole was still inchoate, crude, and formless. And when Matheson died, just days before we at Riverhead had the precious honor of publishing his final book, Irving mourned the loss of a friend I dared to show what I was up to when I was still unsure of what it was. At its best, and it is often this good, editing means getting to be such a friend and entering into that strange and almost primal process of divining the shape the work is trying to assume. It was Matheson himself who gave me my first experience of being taken seriously as an editor, back when I was an assistant to the formidable Jason Epstein, and Peter was working on a collection of stories. One day, he asked if I would look at one he'd been laboring over. Something wasn't working with it, but he didn't know what. I read it and instantly saw, or rather felt, what was off. The story was constructed on a hinge, and the hinge was stuck, much as an actual hinge might be. It's as if writer and editor have their eyes not on each other, but on the shape of the emergent work. And this angle of approach is wonderfully liberating, breaking down barriers and kindling an immediate intimacy that may be my favorite thing about my line of work. This past fall, I got invited to give a talk at a conference on Ivan Doig, the great memoirist and novelist of the West. I puzzled over what to say. Writers and editors don't talk about what a work means, I realized. We talk about how it's made. Ivan and I began with Bucking the Sun, a novel that opens with a couple found drowned in a truck at the bottom of the Missouri River. Revisiting our correspondence of 20 years ago in the online archive, I was struck by how unceremoniously we got down to business. The mystery of who these characters were was a thread that needed to be pulled more firmly through the entire book. When I think about the writers and books I have worked with, it's the dialogue about shape that I most remember. A draft of a story in which a sonic boom goes off at the beginning demands an answering boom at the end. Or, rather than trying to launch 6 complicated characters at the outset, how about introducing them one by one, like a juggler putting balls into the air? Perhaps not surprisingly, all my career I have been drawn to writing and writers who are structurally inventive and do not fit into easy categories: fiction, nonfiction, narrative, essay, poets, and writers. I love that the very name of this organization allows for the reading that they are one and the same. What took me much longer to recognize, and I think is less recognized generally, is that the boundary between the creative enterprise and the business of publishing is worth challenging too. If we keep our focus on the work itself, keep taking our inspiration from it rather than imposing a grid of conventional approaches and expectations on it, the publishing process becomes an extension of the creative moment that gave rise to the book itself. My mentors in this have been my colleagues. The art director looking to create a jacket that will become the outward expression of a book's inmost self runs around for weeks exploding her hands until she finds a photographer willing to let her throw colored dust all over his studio and photograph it. The production editor nerds out with me on finding the mot that does justice to a magnificent sentence. The publicity director dreams of a campaign that involves pet treats or murals. The shape of a powerful pitch for a book comes to an editor while riding her bike to work. The publisher keeps the whole enterprise aloft, sometimes tugging us back into orbit, but also challenging us to go boldly where we haven't before. When we are doing it right, the work we are trying to put into the world focuses and fuels us, and we recapitulate its big bang in a series of detonation all the way through the process. When work like this goes into the world, when it goes into the world like this, I think it is not audacious to say that it becomes, as the phrase goes, an instance of the change we wish to see in the world. This is not only because of the impact it may have at its fullest and most coherent self, shown in the brightest possible light, presented like nothing we have seen before, but a thing necessary, meant to be. It is also because, in putting it into the world this way, we, with our writers, become a community functioning as we would have the world function. And without such a way of being in the world, well, it is a dark and stormy night, and we are living in dark, dangerous, uncertain times. Thank you very much.